previous lecture, we discussed how the unpolarized light, it can be transformed into plane polarized light by absorption. So now we are going to see how the Nicol prism, it helps us in converting the unpolarized light into the polarized one. So for that, first of all, we have to look what is double refraction. So the double refraction, so you are well aware of the normal refraction that takes place in any medium. So the double refraction is that when a beam of unpolarized light, it falls on certain materials like calcite or quartz crystal. So these are the special types of materials, these are the special crystals in which double refraction occurs. So when a beam of unpolarized light falls on such materials, it splits up into two refracted beams. So now here we have two refracted beams instead of just one refracted beam. In the case of normal materials like glass, water. So in case of glass or water, the refraction that occurs is the single refraction. Whereas in the case of materials like calcite, quartz, in such materials, double refraction occurs. So this double refraction, that is the two refracted beams that come, it was first discovered by Dutch philosopher E. Bartholinius in 1669. And what is the cause of double refraction? Why does the double refraction occur? So the double refraction happens due to the property of the material, which is birefringence. Birefringence. Now what is this property? So these crystals like calcite or quartz, they exhibit this property which is birefringence. Now what is birefringence? It is the optical property of a material having a refractive index that depends on the polarization state as well as the direction of propagation of light. Now what is birefringence property? For example, if you have a calcite crystal, let's say this is the calcite crystal, and let's say you are making a polarized light, let's say it has the vibrations of electric field are in the plane of the paper. So let's say the plane polarized light is made to fall on this calcite crystal. Now, if you change the polarization state of the incident light. So firstly, if you make this light to fall on this calcite crystal, this ray, it will experience one refractive index by this material. So this light ray, it will experience a certain refractive index inside this material. Now, what if you change the polarization state of light? So let's say instead of this polarization state, now the vibrations of electric field, they are perpendicular to the plane of paper instead of these vibrations. So now if you make this light to fall on the same calcite crystal in the same direction, you will see that such light ray, it will experience a different refractive index. So in these materials, the refractive index, it depends upon the polarization state. It depends upon the direction in which the electric field is vibrating, and also it depends upon the direction of propagation of the light. So let's say if you make the light to fall from the left hand side, the refractive index will depend upon the direction of propagation of light. So now if you change the direction of the incident light, the refractive index experienced by such light will be different. So in these materials like calcite or quartz, in these materials, the refractive index depends upon the polarization state as well as it depends upon the direction of propagation of the incident light. So this property is called as birefringence, and due to this property, due to the dependence of the refractive index on polarization state and the direction of propagation of the incident light, due to this property of such materials, the light gets split into two refracted beams. So due to birefringence, due to the dependence of the refractive index on polarization state and the direction of propagation of the incident light, double refraction occurs inside such materials. So this is the reason why double refraction occurs. Now there are two types of materials. One are called as optically isotropic and another one are called as optically anisotropic. Now optical isotropic materials are those materials whose optical properties are same in all the directions. So optical isotropic materials, they have same optical properties in all the directions. So optical properties are, for example, like the refractive index of the material or like the dielectric constant. So such optical properties, they remain same in all the directions. Whereas the optically anisotropic materials are those whose optical properties, they are different in different directions. So the optical properties, they depend upon the direction. So optical properties, they are different in different directions. Now what is the example of optically isotropic material? The materials whose optical property is same in all the directions. So example is glass. And optically anisotropic materials are those whose optical properties are different in different directions. So for example, calcite. Now calcite material, calcite crystal or quartz crystal, these are all the optically anisotropic materials and materials that exhibit birefringence. Materials which exhibit birefringence means whose refractive index depends upon the state of polarization and on the direction of propagation of the incident light. Such materials are called as birefringent. Birefringent materials, or they are also called as double refracting materials. Double refracting materials. So they are either called as birefringent materials or double refracting materials. So now what happens? Now we are going to take an example, an experiment that can be done in the laboratory also. So let's say we take a dot. Now I have drawn this dot on a piece of paper. Now I place an isotropic material like calcite. So let's say I have a calcite crystal and I place such crystal on this dot. So now I place a calcite crystal at the top of this dot and I observe that I get two images instead of one image. So let's say if you draw a dot over here and you place a glass plate over here. So if you place a glass plate and if you will view this dot from the top of the glass plate, you will see that there is a one image which is formed of this dot. So this is the source and you will get an image. But if you take a calcite crystal, if you take a calcite or quartz crystal or any birefringent crystal and you place it over this dot, you will observe that you get two images instead of the normal one image. So in case of calcite or quartz or any birefringent material, if you place it over any object, if you place it over any source, so you will get two images instead of just one. So we observe two images instead of the usual one. And if the crystal is rotated, now first of all you will place the calcite crystal over this dot and you will see that you see two images instead of the usual one image. And now if you rotate this crystal, if the crystal is rotated, so let's say you observe two dots when you will view it from the top of the calcite crystal or any birefringent material. So you observe two images. Now what if you rotate this crystal? Now if you rotate the crystal, one of the two images, one of these two images starts rotating around the another stationary image. Now what happens when you rotate the crystal? When you rotate the crystal, you will see that from these two images, one image will start rotating around the another stationary image. So one image will remain stationary and another image will start rotating. It will start rotating around the stationary image. So these two images which we have got over here, these two images occur due to double refraction. So in the case of glass, if you place a glass plate over here, you get a single image. And that single image is due to the normal refraction which we usually study in our high school. But in the case of birefringent materials, you get two images and these two images are caused due to double refraction which is occurring. So instead of one refraction, one refracting beam, in the case of birefringent materials, we get two refracting beams. So due to the two refracting beams, they will reach our eye, and therefore we will see two images. So from these two images, these are caused due to the two refracted rays. These are caused due to the two refracted rays, and one of the rays is called as ordinary ray and is written as O ray. So from these two refracted rays, one ray is called as O ray, or also called as ordinary ray. And another ray is called as E ray, extraordinary ray. So these two images which we have got by placing the birefringent material over a single dot. So by placing a birefringent material, we will see that we have got two images, and these two images are caused due to the double refraction. That is, there are two refracting beams instead of a just single one beam. So these two refracted rays, from these two refracted rays, one ray is called as O ray and another ray is called as E ray. Now we have already seen that when you will rotate the crystal, one image will be stationary and another image will start rotating. So as you rotate the crystal, one image will start rotating and another image will be stationary. Now the image which is stationary, and does not rotate, that image is caused due to O ray. So the refracting ray which forms the stationary image. So there are two refracting rays, there are two refracted rays. From these two refracted rays, one will form the stationary ray. One will form the stationary image. So the stationary image is formed by the ordinary ray. Whereas the image which is moving, the image which is rotating as you are rotating the crystal, that image is formed due to the E ray. So there are two refracted rays, one we call as O ray and another one we call as E ray. Now O ray is the ray which forms the stationary image, whereas E ray, it forms the image which rotates with the rotation of the crystal. The refracted ray which produces the stationary image. So there are two images which are formed when we place the birefringent crystal over a single dot. So the refracted ray which produces the stationary image is called as O ray. The ray which produces stationary image is called as O ray, or also called as ordinary ray, and the image which is formed due to O ray is called as ordinary image. And the other refracted ray which produces the rotating image is called as E ray or extraordinary ray. And this ray is called as extraordinary because it does not obey the laws of refraction. It does not obey the Snell's law. Whereas O ray, which is the ordinary ray, it obeys the Snell's law. And the image which is formed due to this E ray, is called as extraordinary image. Now the O ray, ordinary ray, it obeys the ordinary laws of refraction, or we can also say that it obeys the Snell's law, whereas the extraordinary ray, it doesn't obey the Snell's law. Now what is Snell's law? Snell's law states that if you have a medium, let's say if you have a medium whose refractive index is mu with respect to the medium which is present outside. So let's say it has this refractive index, and you make the light to be incident on this medium with an angle of incidence which is small I. So this ray, it will get reflected as well as it will get refracted inside the medium. So let's say this is the refracting ray, and it makes the angle of refraction. The angle of refraction, let's say, is small r. So what is Snell's law? Snell's law states that this refractive index of the medium, mu, this is equal to sine I divided by sine of r. So this is given by Snell's law. Now let's say if you change this angle of incidence, the angle of refraction will change in such a way that this ratio will give us a constant value. So this is what is Snell's law. Snell's law states that mu is equal to sin I divided by sin r, where mu is the refractive index of the medium, and mu, it takes a one single value, it takes a single fixed value. So if you change the angle of incidence of this ray, the angle of refraction will change in such a way that this fraction, this ratio of sin I and sin r, it will be always constant. So this is obeyed by the ordinary ray, whereas this is not obeyed by the extraordinary ray. So therefore we say that the extraordinary ray, it doesn't obey the Snell's law. So now we are taking an example of a calcite crystal. So this is the principal section of calcite crystal, and we will see in the upcoming lecture that what is the principal section. So now I have taken a calcite crystal and I have made an unpolarized light. So this is the unpolarized light. So I have double-headed arrows and I have a single dot at the center. So this represents the unpolarized light. So unpolarized light, it falls on the calcite crystal. Now calcite crystal is a birefringent material, that is double refraction occurs inside the calcite crystal. So when unpolarized light is made to fall on the calcite crystal, it gets split into two rays. So there is double refraction. So the two rays, the ray which is BD, this ray BD, it will have its vibrations of electric field will be in the plane of paper, whereas this ray BC ray, it will have its vibrations perpendicular to the plane of paper. So vibrations of the electric field, they are different for both the rays. So if unpolarized light is made to fall on calcite crystal, it will split into two rays. So this ray which emerges out as DE, this will be called as the extraordinary ray, and this ray which emerges out as CO, this will be called as the ordinary ray. So when an unpolarized light is made to fall on a calcite crystal, it splits up into two rays, double refraction occurs, and after that they come out of the crystal. So the one ray which has its vibrations in the plane of the paper, the vibrations of electric field, they are in the plane of the paper, that is called as the extraordinary ray, and the other one which emerges out in such a way that its vibrations of electric field are perpendicular to the plane of the paper, that is called as the ordinary ray. So if a narrow beam of light AB is incident on a calcite crystal, making an angle of incidence which is equal to I. So angle of incidence will be same for both E ray as well as the O ray. So angle of incidence will be the same. So if a narrow beam of light is made to incident on a calcite crystal, making an angle of incidence is equal to I, it splits up into two rays inside the crystal. So inside the crystal we will have two rays along the two paths BD and BC. So we have two paths BD and BC, making angles of refraction. So angles of refraction for both the rays will be different because they have been split up into two rays. So therefore angle of refraction will be different for both the rays. So let's say the angle of refraction for this ray at the top, it has angle of refraction is equal to R2, and other ray has angle of refraction, let's say that is R1 respectively. These rays emerge out along DE and CO, parallel to each other. So these rays, they emerge out parallel to each other, and this is because the two faces of the calcite crystal, these two opposite faces of the calcite crystal, they are parallel to each other, and therefore the rays which emerge out, this E ray and the O ray, they emerge out as parallel beams. So thus two images O and E, they are obtained on the screen. So when these rays, they will fall on the screen, they will make two images. So therefore when we place a birefringent material over any object, what we get is we get two images. So two images are formed on the screen if the crystal is rotated about the incident beam. Now if you rotate the crystal about the incident beam as the axis, one image O, this O image, it will remain stationary while the image E rotates around the image O. So this I have already explained on the previous page. Now both the rays O ray and E ray, they emerge out as parallel in the case of calcite crystal, and this is because the two opposite faces of the calcite crystal, they are parallel to each other. So now we are going to apply Snell's law over both E ray and O ray. So as we have said, I is the angle of incidence and R1 is the angle of refraction for O ray, and R2 is the angle of refraction for the extraordinary ray inside the crystal. So now we are going to apply Snell's law. So Snell's law states that mu is equal to sine I by sine R. So mu is the refractive index of the calcite. Mu is the refractive index of the calcite. Now sine I divided by sine R. So this can also be written as velocity of light in vacuum. Velocity of light in vacuum divided by velocity of light in the medium, or you can say in the calcite, because we are talking about calcite crystal, so you can also write over here medium. So the refractive index is equal to ratio of velocity of light in vacuum over velocity of light in the material which we are talking about. So what will be the refractive index for both the O ray and E ray? So refractive index for the ordinary ray, which is represented by mu O. So refractive index for the ordinary ray will be equal to sine I by sine of R1, because R1 is the angle of refraction inside the crystal for the case of O ray. So refractive index for the case of ordinary ray will be equal to sine I divided by sine of R1. And refractive index for the case of E ray inside the crystal will be equal to sine I divided by sine of R2. So this is how we obtain the refractive index for both O ray and E ray. Now for ordinary ray, let's say if you change the angle of incidence, the R1 angle, the angle of refraction for the case of O ray will change in such a way that this ratio will remain the same. So if you change the angle of incidence, R1 will change in such a way that this ratio always remains the constant. So therefore we say that the ordinary ray, it obeys the Snell's law. Whereas if you change the angle of incidence, the angle of refraction R2. If you change angle of incidence, R2 will also change, but this ratio, it does not remain constant. So therefore the extraordinary ray, it does not obey the Snell's law. So the extraordinary ray, it has different refractive index in different directions, whereas the ordinary ray, it always has same refractive index in all the directions. So let's say if you change the direction of the incident light, means you are changing the angle of incidence. So by changing the angle of incidence, the refractive index of the O ray will always remain the same. Whereas for the case of E ray, the refractive index of the extraordinary ray, it changes with the change in the direction. So therefore E ray, it does not obey the Snell's law. For ordinary ray, for O ray, the refractive index mu O is constant, while for E ray, the refractive index is not constant, but it varies with the angle of incidence. Means if you change the direction of the incident light, the refractive index of the E ray will also change. So refractive index of O ray is constant for all the angle of incidence, as it obeys ordinary laws of refraction. So O ray, it obeys the ordinary laws of refraction. Therefore the refractive index of O ray is constant. But for E ray, refractive index is not constant. So O ray travels with the same velocity in all the directions. So now what is refractive index? We have already stated over here that refractive index is also the ratio of velocity of light in vacuum over velocity of the light in medium. Now we are talking about O ray. So for ordinary ray, this ratio always remains the same. Means this ratio will always be fixed. That is, this ratio will be fixed. So for ordinary ray, we have velocity of ordinary ray in vacuum divided by velocity of ordinary ray in the medium. Medium means we are talking about calcite crystal or any birefringent material. So for the ordinary ray, if the refractive index remains the same, if the refractive index is constant, so this ratio must also be constant. So if this ratio is constant, the velocity of ordinary ray in vacuum is always constant. So velocity of ordinary ray in vacuum will be constant, that is the speed of light, which is 3 into 10 power 8 meters per second. So this is fixed, and we have also stated that for ordinary ray mu is fixed. So this is equal to mu. So if mu is fixed, velocity of light in vacuum is fixed, therefore the velocity of ordinary ray inside the medium will also be fixed. So velocity of the ordinary ray inside the birefringent material is always constant. So if you change the angle of incidence, this ratio will always be the same for the case of ordinary ray. So for ordinary ray, this ordinary ray travels with the same velocity in all the directions. It travels with the same velocity. Whereas for the case of E ray, for the case of extraordinary ray, this mu is not constant. It depends upon direction. So this velocity of extraordinary ray in vacuum, this is constant. So it will be 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second divided by velocity of extraordinary ray inside the medium. So if mu is not fixed, obviously this velocity of extraordinary ray inside the medium will also be changing with the change in direction, because mu changes with the change in direction, therefore velocity of extraordinary ray, it also changes with the change in direction. So E ray travels with a different velocity in the different directions. So we also quantify, we also use a physical quantity, we also quantify the birefringence. So what is birefringence? Firstly, we have seen that birefringence is an optical property of a material, but we also quantify the birefringence. Birefringence is the maximum difference between the refractive indices exhibited by the material. As we have said that the refractive index of the material for the case of E ray, it depends upon the direction. So in one direction it will be, let's say if in one direction it is minimum, then in another direction it will be maximum. So the difference in the two refractive indices quantifies the birefringence. So birefringence is quantified as maximum difference between the refractive indices exhibited by the material. So it is the maximum difference. Now both the O ray and E ray, they are plane polarized. So this I have already stated that both these rays, O ray and E ray, they are plane polarized, and O ray, it has its vibrations of electric field in the plane of the paper, and this is for E ray and this is for O ray. The extraordinary ray has its vibrations of electric field in the plane of the paper, whereas the O ray has the vibrations of electric field perpendicular to the plane of the paper. So both these rays are plane polarized rays. Now we have already said that the refractive index for the ordinary ray is given by sin I divided by sin R1, whereas the refractive index for the case of extraordinary ray inside the calcite crystal is given by sin I divided by sin of R2. Now for the case of calcite, particularly for the case of calcite crystal, this R1 angle of refraction, this R1 is less than R2. So R1 is the angle of refraction for the case of ordinary ray, and R2 is the angle of refraction for the case of extraordinary ray. But I am stating over here that for the case of calcite crystal, this R1, this angle is always less than that of R2. R1 is less than R2. So this implies, if R1 is less than R2, this implies that refractive index for the case of ordinary ray inside the calcite crystal, calcite crystal is greater than the refractive index for the case of extraordinary ray. So the refractive index for the case of ordinary ray is greater than that of the refractive index for the case of extraordinary ray inside the calcite crystal, because for calcite crystal R1 is less than R2. And we also know that the refractive index is given by velocity of light in vacuum divided by velocity of light in the medium. So if refractive index for the case of ordinary ray is greater than the refractive index for the case of extraordinary ray inside the calcite crystal. So you can clearly state over here that the velocity of ordinary ray is less than that of velocity of the extraordinary ray. So that you can prove by using this relation, because refractive index and velocity of the ray in the medium, they are inversely proportional. So if mu O is greater than mu E, then velocity of the ordinary ray inside the medium will be less than the velocity of the extraordinary ray. So velocity of E ray is always greater than the O ray. Velocity of E ray, extraordinary ray, is always greater than that of the ordinary ray inside the calcite crystal, and or you can say that E ray travels faster than the O ray in the calcite. E ray, extraordinary ray, it travels faster than the ordinary ray, and such crystals in which the extraordinary ray travels faster than the ordinary ray are called as negative crystals. So negative crystals are those in which the extraordinary ray, it travels at a greater speed as compared to the ordinary ray. Whereas we have positive crystals. Now positive crystals are those in which the velocity of ordinary ray is greater than the extraordinary ray. The velocity of ordinary ray is greater than the extraordinary ray, and those crystals are called as positive crystals. Example of positive crystals is quartz. So the negative crystals, for example calcite, and positive crystals in which the ordinary ray travels faster than the extraordinary ray is quartz. Now in these crystals, in all these birefringent materials, for example calcite or quartz, so in these we have said that the velocity of ordinary ray is either less than the extraordinary ray, or the velocity of ordinary ray is greater than the velocity of extraordinary ray. But in all these crystals there is one direction. There is always one direction in these birefringent crystals along which the velocity of E ray is exactly the same as that of the O ray. Now in all these birefringent materials like quartz, like calcite, like mica or topaz, so in all such crystals there is a single direction. There is a direction along which the velocity of extraordinary ray is exactly the same as that of the ordinary ray. So this axis is called as the optic axis of the crystal. Optic axis. So this is the direction. This is a direction inside the crystal. So optic axis is a direction inside the crystal. It is not a single line. So do not get confused that optic axis is a line. So it is not a line, but it is a direction inside the crystal. So in such a direction, in the direction of the optic axis, the velocity of the extraordinary ray is exactly the same as that of the O ray. So some crystals, they have a single optic axis, and some crystals, they have two optic axes. So crystals that have one optic axis, they are called as uniaxial crystals. They are called as uniaxial crystals. And example is calcite. And crystals which have two optic axes, they are called as biaxial crystals. And example is mica, topaz. So now optic axis is a single, it is a direction inside the birefringent crystal. So in this particular direction, the velocity of E ray is same as that of the O ray. So they travel with the same velocity along this optic axis. Whereas in any other direction other than optic axis, in any other direction other than optic axis, both the E ray and O ray, they will travel with different velocities. So for the case of negative crystals, the velocities, they will be different, such that the velocity of O ray will always be less than the velocity of the extraordinary ray. But in these negative crystals, there is a direction such that both the E ray and O ray, they travel with the same velocity. So only in that direction these two velocities are the same. Other than that direction inside the crystal, these velocities are different, such that O ray, it always travels with a lesser speed as that of the E ray. And in positive crystals also we have said that the velocity of O ray is greater than velocity of E ray. So this happens when we are not taking into account the direction of the, we are not taking into account the optic axis. So if the direction is not the optic axis, for that O ray always travels with a greater speed than the E ray. But if in these positive crystals the direction in which the O ray and E ray they are traveling, that direction is the optic axis, then for that case the O ray and E ray they will travel with the same velocity. So only along this direction inside the crystal, both E ray and O ray they travel with the same velocity. Now there are few things that you have to, these 2 points you have to remember for the case of optic axis. So these are the properties that come under optic axis of a crystal. So a ray of light incident along the optic axis, a ray of light which is incident along the optic axis or in a direction parallel to optic axis. As we have said that optic axis is not a single line but it is a direction. So let's say if I take this as a birefringent crystal and this is the optic axis which I have drawn, this dotted line is the optic axis. So any incident light in the direction of this optic axis, this is the incident ray I have drawn. So this ray is in the direction of optic axis, or you can say along the optic axis. So in the case of these crystals, the optic axis is not a single line but it is a direction. So any line which is parallel to this line will be the optic axis. So any line which is parallel to the line, that these all lines they will be acting as the optic axis. So optic axis is not a single line in the crystal but it is a direction. So any line which is in, any incident light which is in the direction, in this direction, it will be along the optic axis. Any incident light which is in this direction, it will be along the optic axis, along the optic axis of the crystal. So a ray of light incident along the optic axis or in a direction parallel to the optic axis. So if you make a light ray incident in the direction of the optic axis, so the light ray it will not split up into E ray and O ray. So this is the property which we are doing for the case of optic axis. And we have already said that for the case of birefringent material, if you have a birefringent material and if you make a light ray incident on this birefringent material, it splits up into 2 rays. It splits up into 2 rays. But this does not happen when the incident light is in the direction of the optic axis of the crystal. So this is an exception, that if the incident light ray is along the optic axis or in a direction parallel to the optic axis, it does not split up into E ray and O ray, because these both rays they travel with the same speed. As we have said that optic axis along this direction, both E ray and O ray they travel with the same speed. So there is no difference in the refractive index. So if there is no difference in the refractive index for both the rays along the optic axis, they will not split up into E ray and O ray. So there is no double refraction. No double refraction occurs when the incident light is made to fall along the optic axis. So because these both rays, E ray and O ray, they travel with the same speed and in the same direction along the optic axis. So this is a special direction inside such birefringent crystals. So if the incident light is made to fall along this direction on these crystals, then this light ray it will not show double refraction, because E ray and O ray they will travel with the same speed and in the same direction. So this is the first property that come under the optic axis. Second is that a ray of light incident perpendicular to the optic axis. So this was the case, the incident light was along the optic axis. So let's say if I make a light ray to be incident perpendicular to the optic axis of the crystal. So a ray of light incident perpendicular to the optic axis will also not split. So it will also not split, but in this case, E ray and O ray, they will travel in the same direction but with different speeds. So in this second case also, this was the first case when the incident light was falling along the optic axis. Now second case is that incident light is made to fall perpendicular to the optic axis. So in this case also, E ray and O ray, they will not split. So in this case also, there will be no splitting. But in this case, the O ray and E ray, they will travel in the same direction. They will travel in the same direction, but with different speeds. So they will travel with different speeds, but in the same direction. So these are the two properties, that when the ray of light is incident along the optic axis, then E ray and O ray, they travel with the same speed in the same direction. And in the second case, when the incident light is made to fall perpendicular to the optic axis of the crystal, in that case E ray and O ray, they will travel with different speeds. So they will travel with different speeds in the same direction. Whereas if you take any other direction other than this direction or this perpendicular direction, if you take any other direction and you make the light to fall along that particular direction, in those cases double refraction will occur. So except one and except these two cases, there will be double refraction. Now, as we have said that for negative crystals, extraordinary ray, it travels faster than the ordinary ray. And we also know that ordinary ray, the speed of ordinary ray is constant in all the directions, whereas extraordinary ray velocity, it changes with the change in direction. So this VO, ordinary ray, velocity of ordinary ray is constant, whereas the velocity of the extraordinary ray, it changes with the change in direction. And also for the case of positive crystals, this VE is less than VO. And VO is constant. For ordinary ray, velocity is always constant, whereas VE, it will change with the change in direction. And we have said that along the optic axis of any birefringent crystal, VO is equal to VE. So along the optic axis of the crystal, the velocity of ordinary ray is exactly equal to that of the extraordinary ray. And in the case of negative crystals, we are saying that velocity of extraordinary ray is greater than the velocity of ordinary ray. But in these negative crystals, there will be a direction which is the optic axis such that VE will be greater than VO, and except that direction, other than that direction, velocity of extraordinary ray will always be greater than the ordinary ray. So along this optic axis only, VE will be equal to VO, and other than this optic axis, VE will always be greater than VO. And VO is always fixed. It will be constant and VE will be always greater. So along optic axis, VO will become equal to VE. So other than that, we can say that VE is minimum along the optic axis. So if VE is greater than VO, in any other direction except optic axis, and along optic axis VO is equal to VE, so we can say that VE will become equal to VO along the optic axis, and along this direction, along the optic axis, VE will be minimum, and except this optic axis, VE must be greater than VO in the case of negative crystals. So we say that VE is minimum along the optic axis. So VE is minimum but equal to VO along the optic axis, and other than that, VE will always be greater than VO, and VE will be maximum perpendicular to optic axis. So VE is minimum along the optic axis for the case of negative crystals, and VE will be maximum perpendicular to the optic axis. And similar thing we can do for the case of positive crystals. So for positive crystals, VE is less than VO, and VO is fixed, and VE will change as you change the direction. And along the optic axis of these positive crystals, VE is exactly equal to VO. So other than the optic axis, VE will always be less than VO. So you can say that VE is maximum along the optic axis. So VE is maximum but equal to VO along the optic axis, and it will be minimum perpendicular to the optic axis. In the next lecture, we will discuss about the calcite crystal and what is the optic axis in this calcite crystal, and how do we construct the Nicol prism from the calcite crystal.